And then it says, therefore, according to these rumors, you are rebuilding the wall that you may be their king. Nehemiah was not trying to be their king. He was weeping for Jerusalem. He was praying for Jerusalem. He was weeping about the state of the wall. He was praying and fasting for the work that needed to be done. He wasn't interested in setting up his own earthly kingdom. When I was reading through this week, I was thinking about Jesus. When Jesus was before Pilate, we read in John chapter 18, verse 33, then Pilate entered the praetorium again, called Jesus and said to him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answered him and said, are you speaking for yourself about this, or did others tell you this concerning me? Pilate said, am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done? And Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight so that I should not be delivered to the Jews, but my kingdom is not from here. And Pilate then therefore said to him, are you a king then? Jesus answered and said, you say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. Pilate said to him, what is truth? When I looked at that passage this week and I saw those words of Pilate saying, what is truth? Isn't that what people are wondering today? Isn't that what the world is asking for? What is truth? They want to know what truth is because there's so much deception in the world. There's so many lies in the world that people are crying out for truth. What is truth? Pilate says. And when he had said this, he went out again to the Jews and said to them, I find no fault in him. Just like Nehemiah, Jesus wasn't interested in coming here to set up an earthly kingdom. Jesus wasn't interested in becoming an earthly king. But yet this was what was put to him. Is this what you're doing? Or we know your type. You're trying to come down here. You're trying to make your own kingdom, claiming to be the Messiah so you can be king over all of us. No, that wasn't what Jesus wanted to do. See, Jesus didn't need to be king because he already is king. He didn't need to have an earthly throne or an earthly crown because he is king. Let's make no mistake about it. He didn't need to try to attain to any earthly kingship or any earthly kingdom because he is king and his kingdom is in heaven. And one day, as we sang, every knee will bow and every tongue confess. Everybody will. There's no choice in the matter. When everybody goes before the King Jesus, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. If you haven't made the confession here on earth, you will be doing it. These are things that we can't take these things lightly. So when we see these allegations coming towards Nehemiah, we also see in Jesus' life the allegations that came towards Jesus. Why? Because Nehemiah was trying to do a good thing. What did Jesus ever do? Did Jesus do something so bad that everybody needed to come against him? No, he was about I'm doing my Father's business. What was Nehemiah trying to do? Nehemiah was trying to do the same thing. He was about doing his Father's business. When we're about doing our Father's business, people get angry. People start to come against us. People start to oppose us. Why? I don't know. But I know there's a spiritual battle going on. And I know that Satan is around, and I know that he's the god of this world. And I know that the god of this world has blinded people's eyes. But it doesn't stop there. See, the god of this world may have blinded people's eyes, but our eyes aren't blinded. Because Jesus has taken those blinders off our eyes. That's what happens when you have the spiritual rebirth. That's what happens. See, what is truth? That's probably a question that we've all asked in the past. Do we need to ask it now? No, we don't. We have the truth. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except by me. We have the truth. We have the Spirit of truth. We have God's Word. You know, Nehemiah is going through all these different scenarios, and yet nothing is knocking him out. Nothing is taking his faith down. Nehemiah has what I call unshaken faith. That's the sort of faith that we should have. Because why? Because we go back to it. Every week I go back to it because the great hand of our God is upon us. We are children of God. We're born again. We're saved. These terms, like they're put about so much by Christians that we've lost the meaning of them. Nehemiah understood. These are New Testament things. Nehemiah understood all these things because he stood fast in what God was calling him to do. He trusted God with all his life. Even when these enemies were coming against him, it says, their hands will be weakened in the work and it will not be done. Now therefore, O God, strengthen my hands. Nehemiah knew that God could strengthen his hands. Nehemiah knew the prayers that he prayed to him in the past about rebuilding the wall, about helping him. God answered all these prayers. Nehemiah knew that he could trust God. See, sometimes we go through this life and, we get knocked about a little bit and things come in and, our faith gets a bit shaken. But these are the times where we need to look backwards. Sometimes it helps to look back, not always, but sometimes. Sometimes it helps to look back to see what God has done in our lives. God has given each one in here a testimony of how he saved you from hell, how he saved you from sin. And we can look back at those times and we can see, look at how faithful God was. I shouldn't be here today. Look at how faithful God was. That crash that happened, that could have turned out worse than it was. When we can see God's hand in it. But then there's no point in looking back all the time. We need to look forward. What's to come? Nehemiah knew all the plans that God had. He saw all the things that God was doing. But he didn't remain in the past because he knew there was work to be done right now and in the future. So he kept on going. He didn't stop. It would have been easy to stop. When opposition comes in, sometimes it's much easier to say, forget this, I'm done. But Nehemiah kept on going on and on and on because he trusted God. And we can trust God in the same way that Nehemiah did. We can trust God. In fact, I'll go to say this. Maybe even with God's word, because we have the Old Testament and the New, because we know what happens at the end of the book, maybe we can trust God even more than Nehemiah could. Just maybe. Or maybe Nehemiah knew enough about God that he knew that he could place all his trust in him. The work of the cross, this is what Jesus did for us on the work of the cross. Jesus put himself in a place that we could see what he did, and by his rising again that we could place all our trust in him. Somebody said to me, it's not our availability. It's not. I know I'd messed it up. It's not our ability, it's our availability. It's not our ability, it's our availability. Are we available to God? Are we available to do his work? Even when people come against us, are we available to keep on going because we know what God has done? We know what Jesus has done, and we know that we can trust him.